As a life coach, I help people manage emotional triggers and respond to the stresses of life rather than react to them. One way I do that is by helping them identify what I call the imposters chatting inside their heads. These voices come from our deep past that trip us up, sabotage our best intentions, and perpetuate insecurities and negative self-talk. To that end, I developed what I call the SOUL, soul practice, or a way to stop, observe, understand, and liberate ourselves from these imposters. But even though I'm a life coach, I sometimes find myself in need of a coach myself. Someone who can remind me how to do the things I teach others to do, but in a whole new light. I reached out to Byron Katie, a renowned spiritual innovator who has been at the forefront of the personal transformation movement. She's helped countless people with a method of self-inquiry simply called the work. The work revolves around the 4 simple, powerful questions that can help you reframe your perceptions in an entirely new way. Is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? What happens and how do you react when you believe that thought? And who would you be without that thought? I spent an afternoon with Byron and talked with her about the work and her insights into human nature that were born from her own personal struggles and emotional triggers. First, how did you become such a compassionate, loving person that you could feel other people's pain and know the exact thing to say to help unlock them?
You know, I think, Lisa, it comes from those years of, more than a decade of a depression, a darkness, a prison. I couldn't do anything but just lay in bed. I was really trying everything. Drugs, alcohol, everything. Nothing seemed to
Was this when you were in your 20s or 30s or 40s?
In my young 30s up to 43 years old. And then at 43, one day as I lay sleeping on the floor, I was sure I didn't deserve even a bed to sleep in, so I would sleep beside my bed. And the next morning, a cockroach crawled over my foot, and I woke up out of this dead sleep, and I saw how the world was created.
Stop right there. Byron had a profound experience with that cockroach that allowed her to understand how the world was created. That reminds me of my favorite Franz Kafka's book, The Metamorphosis, where the main character wakes up one morning to find that he's been transformed into a cockroach. That certainly taught him how to look at the world differently. The point here is that you never know who or what your teacher will be in life or how it will present itself.
I looked into the mirror and looked deeply into the eyes, and something happened. It was like I recognized myself by nature, but there was no naming of it, and there was no thought of it. It was this unidentified gifting. In that experience, on the floor, the work was born. I had to start over like a child. We come into the world, and what we're believing, like my name is Byron Kathleen, I can prove it on my birth certificate, and that I know mind allowed me to support people wanting to know, how do you get free? How do you free yourself from this world of turmoil and sadness and suffering? And it allows me to address that because I can't tell anyone how, but I can offer questions, these 4 questions. And we wonder why, as a human race, we're so stressed out. There's a lot of identification there. How do you end suffering, Byron Katie? I can say, go to a situation where you were confused or resentful or hurt, just not doing so well. So the only way that scenario can happen is if I'm believing what I am thinking about me, about you, about the world and the people in it and the conditions, and just write it down on paper. So we're taking the cause of suffering from our heads and moving it into the physical world. And then it stabilizes so we can actually question the thoughts and assumptions that we're believing in our head that we're not even aware of. That part of the process can clear away so much if people don't even question it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very powerful.
I share with people that it's kind of like a ball of yarn in your head with the blues, the pinks, the reds, the greens, all mixed up. And you got to like go, let me, here's the yellow. Now your work, write it all down. Now get the blue. If you look at it all at once, it's like, oh, I'm never going to be able to entangle this. And it makes you crazy because there's no coherence. It's all disconnected. What is going on in our brains that we're saying suffering is almost like a rite of passage? We have to embrace it. And some people I know that I've worked with around the world have said, my whole life is suffering. And it's almost like a badge of honor. Here's my suffering. I said, what happens if you take that trophy away?
And let me tell you about it.
Put it down. Who would you be? And they're like, no, but this happened. This is my identity. And then world crises, and it's like
we don't even realize it's going on. It's just the I am, I'm awake, I'm asleep, I woke up, I'm late for breakfast, I need to brush my teeth, I want coffee. Again, the ego doesn't sleep. It has to identify as object, as something. I see the ego as a terrified child, innocent. What are we going to do with a terrified child, with an ego that knows it doesn't exist? It's just an idea, and it's attached to this body, so of course it's afraid of the death of this, because as an ego, who would I be without a body? You know, where's the life? There isn't one. I say it because I don't know how else to help, but to go to byronkatie.com, and there's a worksheet there, and you just fill that in. So there you have this terrified ego running, the story running, stopped on paper, where they can question it. And there are only 4 questions, and anyone with an open mind can do it. And it's self-inquiry. It's a private thing, and just to sit alone with oneself and get still and not ignore what's going on in our head. Unquestioned mind is the cause of all suffering.
Yes. When I said I was going to meet with you to a few friends that are going through stuff, one person asked me to ask you, what happens if someone else keeps attacking you and you're the victim of someone who won't let go, and they share a child and using the child as a tool?
I call it the push, because what they say and do is not the cause of my suffering. What I am believing and thinking and believing about that human being, about myself and the world, that is the cause of my suffering. If I'm angry or attacked in any way, or I feel like a victim, I'm not saying any of that's wrong, it's human. But those are signs that what I'm thinking and believing about that human being is the cause of my suffering, not the human being. And the proof of that is so simple, Lisa, because he slapped me is in the past. And if I imagine it's going to happen again, then I'm dealing with 2 areas that are not now. Have you ever been angry enough to hit someone? And maybe it wasn't a physical hit. Maybe it was something you put on a Facebook page that was hurtful. Maybe it can even be as subtle as just giving them the look. Because ego would convince us, oh, I'm over it.
Yes.
But life will show us if we're over it or not. So,
exactly.
Yeah, good old life as we see it.
So if someone's suffering from depression now, you would tell them just to be in the moment, do these worksheets, and just be grateful for everything around them and fill their head with the positives, just to get through the day.
Yeah, you know, it's the only way I know. I'm sure there are many other ways, but this is the only way I know. And so it's all I can point people to, and meditation to get still. And if there's something running in your head that you just keep going back to, then you may want to just get really still and fill in a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet and meditate in those 4 questions. And it's life-changing.
Do you still do these? Do you
You
still
know,
have issues that come up?
every time I
Are you
work,
cured?
I could say I'm absolutely cured,
Yeah.
but what do I know? The future as we
Mm-hmm.
see it here will let me know. And
Yes.
that's exciting. I
Yes.
mean, don't you want to finish the business you've come here to do?
Absolutely.
So anyone that would hurt me, that's my push. There is a way out of suffering, and that's my message to people. If I can find a way out of suffering, anyone can find a way out of suffering.
There is indeed a way out of suffering. Byron reminds us that the way revolves around the inquiry. Anytime you have any conflict whatsoever with anyone in your life, stop, get quiet, and ask yourself the 4 questions. I guarantee you will emerge with an entirely new perspective on things. Whatever emotional triggers set you off will be instantly reframed by the impartial and transcendent nature of those 4 questions. Take a moment and recall a conflict that you recently had with one person. Got that in your head? Now get quiet. Think about whatever judgments or self-talk that stirred up in you, and now ask yourself, is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? What happens when you believe that thought? And who would you be without that thought? Write down the answers to those questions. Think about them. If you do the work on a regular basis, you will open up a whole new dimension of radiant simplicity in your life. Byron equates the profound simplicity of these questions to the 4 noble truths in Buddhism, which are designed to reframe human nature and liberate us from suffering. We can take our cues from Buddha or Byron, or even a magical cockroach who enters our life. Either way you slice it, personal transformation comes in all forms.